Welcome to the Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard, where continuing education meets convenience. Lisa brings therapists practical conversations with expert guests who share tools, techniques, and insights to enrich your practice. Whether you're on a walk, commuting, or cooking dinner, you can earn continuing education contact hours and stay inspired without sitting through endless recorded trainings. Visit lisamustard.com to join the CE membership and keep your professional growth as seamless as your favorite podcast.
Meet Berries, the AI-powered scribe that writes your therapy notes for you. Secure and private with no recording stored and EMR ready with one click. Join over 8,000 clinicians, saving time and staying present in sessions. And right now, save $50 off your first month with code TherapyShow50. Berries, so you can focus on care, not notes.
Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of The Therapy Show. I'm your host, Lisa Mustard, and I'm so excited for y'all to meet Carolyn Robistow. Welcome to the show, Carolyn. It's great to have you.
Hi. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I am so excited for you to be here as well. You have some really neat things happening at the moment. But before we jump into that, can you share with our listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you help?
Oh, absolutely. So I love that this is the therapy show because therapists call me when they're ready to expand beyond the one-on-one model and add a group offer like group psychotherapy, group coaching, just to cut that time in session in half, cut our work week in half. My husband and I sold all of our things and moved on to a boat, and that was what kickstarted my journey into how do I work less without sacrificing the income, and that turned quickly into an obsession with groups and group work. So
Oh, yeah. That's so
that's
cool.
where you can find me these days.
Yes, and actually, as we were recording this, if you're listening, head over to YouTube so you can see the video. Carolyn is on her boat right now. Got a really cool, pretty nautical-ish background with some jellyfish, I think, in the background. Okay.
Yeah. It was we were at a marina once and they did one of those bring your drink and we'll paint something, and that's what that was. It was just a
Yeah.
little community thing.
So where are you guys right now?
Marathon, Florida, down in the Keys. So
Okay. Do you travel
not cold.
around? Like, yeah, no. How does it work? Do you just travel around? Do you hang out in one spot for a while? How does that work for y'all?
It varies. We
Mhm.
have been places for multiple months at a time. Things that decide that are things like our finances, because our boat holds 600 gallons of fuel. And so when fuel costs are up, we have to think about the cost of miles per gallon, things like that. And we are on a trawler, not a sailboat. So we can't get real far yet, but we are working on hopefully transitioning into something we can, go a little farther with. But we ideally, we don't stay anywhere more than a month
Mm.
tops, but what tends to happen is we move in spurts, and so we'll, like, move, and then we'll stay put for a little bit and then move, and we have just spent the last just over 2 years up and down the East Coast,
Oh
so
my
all
God.
the way up just right to the edge of Canada in Lake Champlain, which runs between Vermont and New York, and then back down all the way down here to Key West.
Man, what a life. How cool is that? I love that.
Yeah.
So neat. And so this week is actually something really exciting. Will you share what's going on this week with your offers and what you have going on?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So this week, people can sign up for the Scalable Therapist. So as I started doing this work with therapists, I run a program called Hourly to Out of Office, which is where the therapists come in and I teach them how to fill their groups and get the right people coming in. And we do all of this in what I think is probably a backwards order from what I was taught, but quite in fact, a more profitable, get the money coming in the door faster way. And as I was going through teaching these therapists how to fill groups, I just got a lot of really good questions that I did not have the answers to. And so I organized the Scalable Therapist, which is a free summit that I do that we're on. This will be season 2. I'm excited to have another round of it where I bring in experts, much like yourself.
Yeah.
Little plug, Lisa's going to be a guest on the Scalable Therapist. And I bring in experts on things that I'm not an expert on to fill in those gaps. And so the point of the Scalable Therapist is for therapists. And I say therapists, life coaches sometimes will come to me and be like, I'm just a coach. And I'm like, you also have a lot of education and important work that you do. So we're not going to just to coach anybody. But so life coaches will reach out and be like, is this for me too? And so I'm just going to throw that out there. Yes, the same process works. We all got a niche. So I niched a therapist. And the objective of the Scalable Therapist is to have the answer to 2 questions. One is a one-to-many offer, like group coaching or group psychotherapy. is it the next right step for me? And two is, if that's a yes, then what do I need to be doing in order to make it happen? Like, how do we go from idea to income with these types of things? So that's the point of the scalable therapist. And that's why you're one of the experts that I invited to come speak to our community.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm excited for my portion to be live. And so if people want to jump into the scalable therapist program, there's a link in the show notes. You guys just click on that and you can join for free. You can get the recordings for free. And there are some, I would say, like upsells from there, but all the information, the basic information is for free. So if you're listening, click the link in the show note and go ahead and sign up because I think it's pretty cool. Who else do you have? I know you have Kim Tolson in there. Who else is
Mhm.
speaking?
I have Aneem and B Awe, which they're identical twins, which is
Mhm.
so fun. And so Aneem is speaking about money mindset, and B is speaking about inclusivity and how to have really tough conversations around diversity and making sure that we are creating groups that are inclusive and that are just very mindful of different people's experiences, which we think as therapists, we already know how to do, and we do, but when you're in a group environment, you
Yeah.
also have to facilitate that everyone else is having a respectful conversation as well,
Mhm.
whilst also making it a place where people can be really honest about their experience. And so I've got B and Aneem. Who else? As of today, when we're recording this, we have, I want to say 8 speakers, myself included, and I'm waiting to hear back from 2 more. Allison Pereer is
Mhm.
coming to speak, and Brianna Owen, who is a human design and copywriting expert. So we've got a full house of great experts.
Very cool. Wow, I'm excited to catch the rest of the episodes because the one I'm in talking about creating continuing education as a one-to-many model. So that was a really fun recording for me.
Yeah.
And thank you for that opportunity. So yeah, the first question that you are posing to therapists is, am I ready for do I want to go to that next step of a one-to-many model? So some people listening might be like, maybe I'm ready for that. How do they know if they're ready for that?
Listen, they come to the scalable therapist and they will get that answer.
Right.
No, but in a nutshell, so the people who come in and are just like rock stars at it, right? They have this in common with you and I both, right? That our private practice is as full as we want it to be, not overflowing and crispy. We're not nearing burnout so much as it's good, but what if I just wanted to do something to spice it up a little bit? And so, like, for me, what I wanted to do to spice it up a little bit was sell all my stuff and move on to a boat and be able to actually see the places we go and not feel like I'm down in this cabin on screen all the time, because who moves onto a boat to be in the cabin and not see the water? That's not a thing. And so just realizing that even though life was really good the way it was, there's just was this itch for it to be good in a different way. And I think that's something that I hear from the therapists who I work with, which is, yeah, like, it's fine. I'm not unhappy. I'm not like, I don't dread going to work. Yeah, sometimes there are days where I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if this was a holiday? Or we get a no show and we're like, oh, nuts. But for the most part, we're happy
Mhm.
and just looking for a different, like, we just want it to look different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost I remember when I was recording mine, I was just talking about how wanting a new challenge, a new creative outlet for staying in the work, but not trading the time I had for a one-to-one, but figuring out a way to hit one-to-many. And so I love what you're doing because it could be anything. Groups are one thing that you
Mhm,
specialize in. It doesn't have to be groups. It can be something else. It doesn't have to be in
mhm,
exactly that container because I don't do a group, but I do have a product or service that does hit one-to-many.
mhm,
And then
mhm.
your other question that you throw out there is, okay, so maybe you are ready. How do you bring your interests and your passions as well as being niche specific to that group? How do you make,
Yeah.
how do you like formulate it? I think that's really a great question.
We have to play with it.
Mhm.
And we w what we do in Hourly Out of Office is we get paid to play with it. So, what a lot of therapists will do is they'll have this really creative idea, and then they'll start reworking it and playing around and tinkering with what it could be, and then we make this well-intentioned mistake of designing the program, which sounds like it would be a great thing to do, when in fact, what we have to do is start to test the market and
Mhm.
say, are there people, like, what is the right way to explain the problem I'd like to solve so that it resonates with people? And so what I teach is a skill, or not a skill, a tool called the limbic language libraries. And so we talk about how in our limbic system, there are not words, like, it doesn't have nouns. It has verbs and we call them visible verbs. Like our limbic system, which is like emotion, fear, reward, social bonding, it doesn't know that it's sad. It just experiences sadness. It doesn't know it's afraid. It just experiences fear. It doesn't know it's happy. It experiences happiness. So we have to take the problem we're solving. We have to speak to people having that problem. And this is very different than market research. I want to be clear on that because a lot of courses will teach it as, yeah, go talk to potential clients and find out what they're saying and then say it right back to them. But what we do is we go like a level, we up level it and say, but let's find out what their limbic system needs to hear in order to like ping, put their little feelers up and be like, I'm sorry, what now? An example I use of that is, gosh, and then my brain just flooded with
Yeah.
examples, which maybe that's a good example where I could say, maybe my group is helping menopausal women. And I say, if you're dealing with the problem of when you're on a podcast and you want to say something really intelligent, and then all of a sudden your brain floods with information and you can't figure out which thing to say. Like and I saw you just took that like deep breath, even when I said that it's just a different way of speaking. We're speaking about the experience that a person can embody a yes or a no to that. Is that my experience or not? Versus here's a good example of it. In my quote unquote market research, the word sustainable comes up so many times. Like if I had a nickel for every time the word sustainable, sustainability, some version of it. But when I put out in my emails, do you want sustainability? Do you want something sustainable? Freaking crickets. Because while the word sounds good, it doesn't get that like emotional experience part. And even as I'm saying this, I feel it. I'm like, the people watching on YouTube, it's like my shoulders crunch up. It's like the experience of a thing.
Yeah.
And so when I can say instead, you want to be able to spend a month in Costa Rica without seeing clients. See, like it just lands different. But really, we're talking about the same thing, which is financial sustainable income so that you can take a month to go be in Costa Rica and not see clients. But the experience, it hits differently. And people are very nervous about speaking in experiences because it feels exclusive.
Interesting.
But what's cool is I know that if I were to say, yeah, because you want to spend a month in Costa Rica without seeing clients, that your system, even if it's not Costa Rica, can gather, is that vibe something that I'm interested in or not? And so that's the first thing we do inside the program. So going back to, I don't even remember what the question was. See, again, like you're on a podcast, I don't remember what the question was.
No, I just the question, if I recall what I asked, but it brings me back to is, so you're combining your experiences, your interests, and your limbic system responses
Yes.
to what is that next thing that you create. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So as we're talking to people about, are you having this problem and actively trying to solve it? We then can start making offers. And we do this as therapists all the time. It's so wild that we're being taught to do this differently with marketing, which is why I teach it the way I do. It's like, we then are like, gosh, I laugh every time I use this analogy. So I was 14. I was like 1 month away from 14 years old when Jurassic Park came out in the movie theater, the original one. And the scene where the velociraptors are like testing the fence to see if it's still electrified or not. It's not the greatest analogy, but that's what I picture. We're throwing out there these ideas of, hey, I'm looking for people who are trying to solve this problem. I have an idea. I want to run it by you type situation. And so then when we're running our idea by people, we don't need to know, okay, we're going to do 6 weeks and we're going to do 5 mindfulness activities and it's going to be these themes over the weeks. But instead we can say things like, I'm thinking that if we were to bring in, and this is where I can bring in my interests, right? Like I have people in hourly out of office who like are into knitting, or one person like paints records and sells them on Etsy, like the actual like music records. They're so beautiful. One person she's like writing a book she's embroidering a book for her grandchildren, right? And so we can say to them, I'm thinking that what a person dealing with this problem needs is XYZ solution. And I also would love to play around with what happens if we bring some sort of creative expressive art into that, like knitting or something like that. And so we do get to start bringing in more of us. And because that is such a thing, I created a custom GPT to help people figure that out. It's just like real simple couple of questions. And then it'll say, here are some group structures that might feel good for you to start playing with. And actually, if people come to the Scalable Therapist and do the upgrade kit, the VIP kit, they get that GPT with it. So if they go register, they'll be given the option on the thank you page. Oh, do you want to upgrade? And it comes with some extra bonus goodies, and that GPT is one of them. But something you said earlier that I wanted that stuck out in my brain was that you were saying like yours is also one to many, but it's not necessarily considered a group. And so what I would say is I would still consider that a group because when you're creating the experience someone has, right? Like you're creating it in a community space in a sense. Like people who go through a pod course, right? Like it feels like a very individual experience, but part of what it is, they're being brought into the community that shares that understanding. And so we can really do some powerful things, especially as mental health professionals, to really facilitate that sense of creating community, whether we're live together or not, because it's really like culture building. And so what you've done really well too is spot that culture of people who want their podcasts or their CEs on the go, and you have filled that need. So I think one to many to me is one to many. And the same principles apply in a sense. It's just what that application looks like
Yeah.
between the different containers. And I think
Yeah.
that we as therapists, I'm going to climb off my soapbox real quick, I
Okay.
promise. What I think that we as therapists do is we over focus on the container when really what we need is a framework or a methodology that can fit in whatever container we want to put it in.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. I like that. That makes sense to me. How I guess I came up with did I come up with? I came up with my idea first, and then I thought, what's the container that it's going to be in,
Mhm.
and how does it? Yeah, and I can relate to a lot of the things that you shared. Just as an example, my idea for the podcast came first before I even knew what kind of continuing education I was going to put out there. I just had this like idea of, oh, I want to create continuing education on the go through podcasting. I had no idea what my first continuing ed pod course was going to be. I was like, I'll figure that out later. But how do I create a podcast that does continuing education? And yeah, so that's, oh gosh, I feel like we're speaking the same language. Because I guess
Yeah.
I went through your framework without realizing that I was going through it because I the market research for I think for me comes from what do my listeners want for subject matter? What do
Mhm.
they want for topics? So I have to be what's the next topic that you guys want? That's where my market research is because there definitely is a group of people out there who love doing pod courses and really love getting continuing education on the go. I'm not the only one that's doing it, but I'm doing it in my way and I've created my own culture. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
in
It's
that
super cool.
culture, you can go to people and say, "Hey, what's on your mind?" And
Yeah.
they feel safe and comfortable saying to you, "Here's what's on my mind.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you
Okay.
help?" And you go, "Yeah,
Mhm.
let me go find someone and we'll create a pod course out of it."
Yeah. Cool.
So
Okay.
that's the culture. Yeah.
So can you give us some examples of what your students have done in the past, what they've created?
Yes. Oh gosh, I get to brag on my people. Okay. I'm apologizing now to any hourly or out of office student who I don't mention because there's so many and it's a little bit like an award show. I want to thank so and pretty soon the music will start playing, right? Some that immediately come to mind are I have a woman who has created a community for Black women expats who have left the United States. And she's filling that mental health gap because obviously, when someone leaves the States, they cannot take their therapist with them unless their therapist goes through all of the licensing things to work internationally. And that's just a whole thing, right? And so she has filled the gap. And so not only is she giving them like the community sense of support, but she also is building a directory to help them connect with people in their new country so they can get that mental health care. I have someone who has created a community for practicum students and pre-licensed clinicians who feel like they're so we can all go back to our own practicum site, right? Like how many of us had solid gold practicum experiences where we did not feel thrown to the wolves? And it's very few and far between, right? So she's filling in the gaps so that their site doesn't have to fill in all the gaps because a site supervisor will tell you, like, this is a lot, right? I'm trying to get these practicum students ready to graduate, ready for pre-licensure. I'm trying to do this. It's often they're like the clinical director, so they've got multiple things they're balancing. And so to have someone come in and say, hey, send your practicum students my way, and I'll also give them that support that you don't have the infrastructure for or the time for. And
Wow.
so she's working with the pre-licensed clinicians that way and the practicum students that way.
Wait, let me get
Someone,
let me interrupt.
yeah,
So the clinical director at the site is giving them support, but there's this other program over here that your student is creating that she can then give her. Oh, that is so cool. So then the students can get more support from her. So she's like
mhm.
contracting with this. Oh, that is such a good idea. So
Yeah,
smart.
yeah. Yeah, and what it does too is when you're a practicum student, how many other practicum students are at your site and how much time do you get to actually spend connecting with them? Not much because you're running from thing to thing. And what she found, and again, this is when we go out in the world and start talking about what's the problem we're solving
Mhm.
instead of who's your ideal client.
Yeah.
Like I'm big on your ideal client will start to reveal themselves naturally when you start trying to solve a problem. The
Mhm.
people who need to solve that problem and are ready to solve the problem are going to sit up and be like, hey, over here, sorry, what did you say you had an idea for a solution? Please say more.
Yeah.
And so when she started going and talking to the practicum students about it, that's part of what came out was that I'm dreading the first time I get left with a client like on my own. And so to be in a space where it's okay to say, yeah, I'm scared. Like, I sure hope I remember the 14 different theories and the 11 factors of therapeutic change and person centered rapport building. So to have a space where we're all learning together and can connect on that.
Yeah.
Some of the less in-person group ones, because I feel like the ones I've given are all examples of really like live experiences. Students creating decluttering courses for people with ADHD to go into their home and start dealing with some of the physical clutter that just adds to their emotional clutter and having that be a recorded do-it-yourself program, almost like a 7-day challenge type
Yeah.
thing. So just some really creative ways that my owls, we abbreviate hourly to out of office. It started as hourly to out of office therapists, so we called it Hoot. And then the inside when you're in the community joke is, "Oh, yeah, we're Hooters, for sure." But when we talk about it in public, we're owls. It's and our little graduate program is the alumni, like, it's a whole thing.
Oh, that sounds so cool. I love
But,
it.
yeah, so there's just a lot of people in there, like one person creating groups to help men argue-proof their relationship, like, just the number of creative ways
Mhm.
that people come in and are doing this fun we have a blast.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds like it. It sounds like a lot of fun. And how long is the program?
So currently it is 1 year, and I made it a year because even though my main goal is for you to start connecting with your first group of paying clients within 30 days. What happens is life, ideas change, things evolve, we reiterate things, and I also because financially I wanted people to be able to spread the payment out a little longer, but I will say after the scalable therapist, that is going to change. So if people are thinking they want in, they should
Mhm.
contact me sooner rather than
Right.
later.
Jump in now. Jump in now. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Just
cool.
because I think at a certain point with 12 months, we almost give ourselves too much wiggle room. And what I find is I end up with multiple students who waited until the end and then are like in that scarcity, like rush thing. And so I realized going back through it, I'm like, oh, it turns out that what I thought was a really nice cushion actually was more hindrance than help.
Yeah.
So wanting
Yeah.
to we're just constantly iterating.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
myself included. And I
Sure.
use the same process I teach. I call it the 3 prefrontal playgrounds. And I use the same 3 prefrontal playground process to do my own groups. I just got a specialty group brain spotting workshop
Mm.
approved, and I went through the same process with that. So
Oh, cool.
I do what I teach.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking back to how long it took for me to get the podcast up and running and earning my first dollar bill. I'm trying to remember
Mhm.
how long that took. It took me, I don't know, from start to finish. I don't even know because the getting ready part took a little bit and then getting to be an approved provider took a little bit.
Yeah,
It took
I was gonna say, I bet
Mhm.
that would be the biggest hitch
Yeah.
in the get along for the CEs is
Yeah.
you gotta get the approval. That's out of your
Yeah.
hands.
But what I think's really something that people may not think about is also, and I know I mentioned this in the training, I don't know, I've done a bunch of interviews recently, so I think it's in yours, where the thing that for me that was a surprise along the way was I really thought the income would come from creating continuing education courses, but along the way, I was approached by sponsors and said, "Hey, we'd like to sponsor your show." So I think that always you just never know where your ideas are going to take you, and taking that leap of faith and investing in yourself and in a program where the person who is running the program is going to do the do and what they say, walk the walk, talk the talk and walk
Yeah.
the walk is really impressive because there's a lot of people out there selling you stuff that they think will work.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think that what you're
I bought
offering
a
is
lot of
really
that.
cool.
I
Yeah,
bought a
I
lot
know.
of what people thought would work. I
Yeah,
spent a lot of money on that before I figured it out for myself, and I was like, they
yeah,
were wrong.
yeah. I know. There's a lot of stuff out there that is. it looks great, but you get in and you're like, what? This isn't what I thought it was going to be.
I think I
Mhm.
think the biggest thing about it is it looks great, and once you know what that's why I will say, I will die on the hill that, like, automated sales funnels and, like, email lead magnets and list building and things like that, that is step 4. What we do in Hourly to Out of Office is these first 3 steps, the pre-funnel, so that then we can put step 4 in place, and that's when what everyone else is saying is so much easier because these are, like, the 3 foundational pieces. And again, let's get paid while we're building the foundation. Let's not wait until we know our niche and our ideal client and our messaging and our branding
Yeah.
before we start making money, because then we'd never make money. I gotta
Right.
listen. Like I said, 600 gallons of fuel.
Yeah.
I'm the breadwinner.
Yeah.
Someone's got to fill this boat up with
Yeah.
fuel. I don't have time to be building websites. So I've done this for multiple years now with no website. I launched Hourly Out of Office with an actual sales page for the first time this past December. Up until then, I was selling people into it with no website.
Wow.
So I just think that when we can look at what brings the money in the door faster and finds out, does this group work or
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
then everything else becomes easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I want to encourage everybody listening to go to the link in the show notes and sign up for the Scalable Therapist Summit and get all the good stuff. And then if you upgrade, which I love what you're doing. So when you upgrade, where does that money go? It's so cool, y'all.
Yeah, so every penny of profit from the upgrade kit goes to Rocky Mountain Brain Spotting Institute. And the mission of Rocky Mountain Brain Spotting Institute is to connect providers and clients with brain spotting resources. And so they will promote trainings and sponsor trainings to get more people trained in it. We're working on research to get it in peer-reviewed journals so we can get that elusive evidence-based practice thing, right? Because it's a pretty new therapy is in terms of the psychotherapy field. It's 20 years old, so it's not a baby anymore, but it is in the grand scheme of psychotherapy. And they also will scholarship underinsured and uninsured clients who cannot afford therapy and pay the therapist for this person to see them for 10 sessions. So that's why I have chosen them for the charity to get the money off of season 2. So yeah, come register on the thank you page, grab that VIP kit so you get more access, more extra bonus goodies. I think you give a free pod course
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
VIP upgrade kit. So we've got people giving extra just to help support this amazing cause. And
Yeah.
we get to help our businesses.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know Kim Tolson is probably throwing something really great in there, knowing her.
Uh-huh.
I imagine she's
Uh-huh.
some really good stuff. That woman is just,
Yep.
oh, she's chock full of all kinds of wisdom and value. And I learn something new from her like every week.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, she threw
yeah.
in Allison Purrier. Lots
Oh.
of people are throwing extra goodies into the VIP upgrade.
Awesome.
So it's worth at least checking out.
Yeah, definitely. You guys click that link in the show notes and give it a look-see. And Carolyn, thank you so much for being here. It's so great to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. This was fun.
Yeah, you're welcome. Please note that the Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and not a substitute for professional medical or mental health advice. Always consult with your therapist, doctor, or physician before implementing any suggestions from the show. The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard is edited and engineered by Chelsea Weaver. If you're looking to start a podcast or ready to take the editing off of your plate, be sure to visit chelseaweaverpodcasting.com. Well, that wraps up another episode of The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard. I know there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I'm thankful you've chosen to listen to mine. Be sure to visit lisamustard.com to access the show notes and discover all the pod courses and other continuing education offerings. And I'd be grateful if you subscribe to the show. Thank you.